And they always say, well, nobody ever said drinking and smoking would keep me from heaven. And I'll be honest with you, for me, I was good with that. That sounded good because I can continue what I wanted to do. But yet still, I knew it wasn't what God's called for me to do. Tears just started flowing. I said, God, I'm sorry. I can't do this no more. I need you to remove this taste from me. Growing up, I've always looked at what a man was. And even though I was raised in the church, I had a lot of figures around me who were not. And even my father, he was, like to go out and drink, gamble, my uncles, they all drank and gambled. And a lot of the older guys that I dealt with did the same thing. And for me, that was, what was expected. And I remember my mom, she used to always tell us, that's not the way to be. I remember seeing my dad come home, lit up, and it was like, hey, that's what men do. And as I got older, I partaked. I started doing the same thing. And like I said, I was raised in church, got saved early in life. But as I got older, I was at that point where I don't have to go to church no more if I don't want to. For me, the lifestyle of partying and all that, it was intriguing. I had no issues with it. I was comfortable with what I was doing. Stopped going to church. One thing led to another. 1 week led to a month. 1 month led to 2 months, 6 months, then it was years. I had walked away from God. I look back now and I understand that even though I walked away from God, God never walked away from me. And I would do things in life, man, and conviction would hit me hard. Didn't stop me from doing what I was doing, but the conviction was there. I remember as a child, my mom praying, and she'd be at the foot of her bed praying, talking in tongues. I used to think, man, that woman crazy. In hindsight, I understood she was praying for her family, that none of us be lost. We'd all come to know who Christ was. I get married, I got kids and everything, but I'm still having fun, and drinking and partying, going to one bar after another. And now I'm working in the police department. I'm working in an environment where almost everybody drank. If you didn't drink, you was like the nerd. I would work midnight to 8. Get off early in the morning, man. 8 o'clock in the morning. And we had a buddy of ours that owned the bar. He would open it up for us, man. We go in there and drink and party. We got out of there 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Got to be back work at midnight. But we had fun. At least we thought we did. That went on for years. Then I moved to a unit. I went to Vice. We did bar investigations. They gave me an expense account to drink. Man, you could not tell me I ain't had the best of both worlds. I'm getting drunk, I'm partying, and the city paying for it. Me and my wife was talking one day, and my kids are getting older, and we would take them to church and all. She would, basically, and I'd go every now and then. But then we got serious about going to church. And I remember when Triumph of Faith first opened up, my mother called me. Because we were still members of Deliverance, but we weren't going. I wasn't going. My wife, she went to another church, and she would still go. She'd take the kids at times. So my mom told me, meet me at Rising Sun and Terry, bro. I want to show you something. And when I came, I walked into Triumph of Faith. And it was like the Lord said, you're home. This is where I want you. Gave my life back to God. I'm still drinking, and still partying. But I didn't miss church. There was times where I would leave church I go home, I had a neighbor. Me and him, I leave church and go home and sit there. Me and him sit on the porch and hash off. Remember one Sunday morning, my wife was like, "You going to church?" And I was like, "No, I think I'm going to stay home. Things I want to do." And all along, it was the thing was bothering me that I was in church and still doing those things. And that really had my spirit in turmoil. But I thought at that time that there was something that I would never get rid of. And I've seen people in church drinking and everything else. You listen to some of these ministers, they talk about drinking and all. And they always say, well, nobody ever said drinking and smoking would keep you from heaven. And I'll be honest with you, for me, I was good with that. That sounded good because I can continue what I wanted to do. But yet still, I knew it wasn't what God's called for me to do. So that morning she said, "You going?" I said, "No, I'm going to stay home. I'm going to stay home and get some stuff done." Her and the kids got in the car to leave. And I'm telling you, they didn't pull off the block. I poured me up a glass of VO. I'm sitting there, got the Randall Cunningham show on. And I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at this glass. And I got such a heavy conviction. Tears just started flowing. I said, "God, I'm sorry. I can't do this no more. I need you to remove this taste from me." And I'm telling you, that was like 21 years ago. And I sat there that whole day and just looked at that glass. When my wife came home, I knew then I wasn't drinking no more. But my job, it's part of my job. Mm-hmm. I'm going in these nightclubs and speakeasies and everything else. Neighborhood bars and all, and you got to drink to blend in, I was like, "Well, God, I told you I'm not drinking no more." And I started ordering cranberry juice and orange juice, cranberry and pineapple, club soda, because once you got in the glass, nobody knows what you're drinking. I was still able to do my job. And even in that job, man, it was like one of the things was like, I got to get out of this atmosphere. I can't do this, because even though I wasn't drinking no more, the temptation's right there. It's right in front of me. I said, "God, you got to help me get out of here." And I put in transfers and they were denied. And it wasn't denied because of behavior or anything. I was good at what I did. Lack of manpower. I said, "God, I can't do this." I'll never forget, we were on vacation. We went up to the mountains. Me and my wife and kids are up there, and I get a phone call from my friend. And me and him went to the police academy together. Very close. He's like a brother to me. And he called me, and we went through the ranks pretty quick in his career. And he called me. I said, "Hey, what's up, man?" He says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm on vacation." He had asked me to come work for him before, but he couldn't pay me the money that I was making in the special unit. Mm. And for me, it would have been a major cut. At the time, my wife wasn't working. I had 4 kids. I needed the money that I had. So I told him, I said, "Rich, I can't come work for you at the time." But when he called me this time, it was different. He said, "Listen, man, I'm getting promoted on Monday to deputy commissioner." He said, "I need you to come work for me." And I thought about that. I said, "Okay." And I'm like, wow. God, I asked you to get me out of here. And you did. God, you're faithful. I said, "Look, Rich, I'm on vacation. I won't be back for a week and a half." He says, "What does that mean?" I says, "You might need somebody right away." He says, "If I can't have you, I'm not taking nobody." It's okay. And I came back from vacation. I reported to working for him. And one of the things that I noticed was, the worship that I had in me. I was like, God, thank you. Because you removed me from this very presence. I was saved already. Like I say, I was going back and forth, and I tell people all the time, there's a difference between being saved and being delivered. But when God delivers you, he does a complete work. And from that day to the day, I've never had a desire for another drink. Never had a desire to hang out. I've been in atmospheres where drinking is, you go to weddings and they toast with champagne and all that. I don't touch it. I don't touch it. And as I tell people all the time, I say, one of the things I knew about God is when he does a work, he does a complete work. I didn't have to do 12 steps. I didn't have to go to AA. I just called on him. The Bible says, call upon me, and I will answer thee and show you great and mighty things you don't know of. Why is that important to me? Because drinking was my hang-up. That was my vice. But you got people out there who are narcotics, sexually addicted. They got so many things going on in their lives, and you sit back and you say, how can God accept me? And I look at them and say, an addiction is an addiction. The question is, how much do you trust God? Do you believe that God is able? I do. He's proven it to me over and over and over again. He is faithful. If you ask me to define God in one word, I will tell you, is faithful. I called on it. He answered me. He delivered me. So I encourage everyone who's saved, and you're still going through some things, just trust God. Call God. Give it to him. And let him do what he does best. I never known God to fail. I've had a whole lot going on in my life. This is just one thing. But I can tell you this here. With everything that I've been through, he's never failed me. He's always been on time. There's nothing that we have done in this world that God hasn't taken to the cross already. Listen to Pastor Dykeman preach one day. He said something that really hit me hard. And I'm going to paraphrase it. But he basically said, in my entire life, with everything that I've done, everywhere that I've been, no matter what I was doing, there's never been a day that God has not loved me. Even when I didn't love myself, God loved me. Even I told you, when I was a young man and walked away, God loved me. And the Bible declares that God commended his love toward me. Make it personal. But he commended his love toward me while I was yet a sinner. Christ died for me. If he did it for me, he'll do it for you. I'm telling you, one of the greatest things I ever did was turn to Jesus. Not saying that I don't make mistakes. Not saying that I don't go through issues. Like I was telling a young man earlier today, I've learned in my life that there's 3 types of storms. The one you came out of, the one that you're in, and the one that's coming. The greatest thing is when you got Christ on your side. The one you came out of, you can testify that he brought you through it. The one that you're in, he said, I'll give you peace that surpasses all understanding. In the midst of the storm, I still got joy. And the one that's coming, I say, bring it. Because I walk with the Christ. I walk with the Son of the living God. And he said, no weapon formed against me will prosper. If he said that about me, he's talking to you. I'm here today to declare that Jesus is real. He's living. He's, coming back. And he's coming back for his church. And for those who don't know Christ and the pardoning of their sins, I pray, God, they get to know him. Those who know God and need deliverance, I pray, God, they talk to him.